In this video, we're going to learn how to predict the result of mathematical calculations in Python. So as we begin to talk about math in Python, let's talk about the math that behaves exactly as we would expect it to behave. So here, if you look, I'm talking about integers and doubles. Another word for double is a float. This is talking about anything that contains a decimal value to it. So integers do not contain a decimal component. Double values do contain a decimal component. So if we take a look at these, what you'll notice is that adding, subtracting, and multiplication all work exactly as we expect them to with both integers and doubles. So that's something consistent that you can expect to happen as we work with mathematics in Python. Now there are some ways where math works a little bit differently than we expect, but with these three operations, addition, subtraction, and multiplication, regardless of whether you have integers and doubles, it's going to work exactly as you expect. Now, while some math works exactly as you expect, other math does not. So, one area where math is a little bit tricky in computer science deals with division. So here what you'll notice is that integer division and float or double division, they work differently depending on the type of numbers that you have. So the first thing you need to know is that if you have floats, so if you have numbers that are decimal, so say for example this was 14.0 divided by 14.0, we can see they have the decimal component. If you know that you have two floats or two decimal numbers, when you divide those numbers, they are going to give you the decimal result. So 14 divided by 4 is 3.5. That's how we expect it to work. Now what's confusing is that when we get to integers, integers do not divide as we expect. So if you have two numbers that are integers, the result of math on two integers in Python needs to result in another integer. And what we know here is that 14 doesn't divide evenly by 4. So when you use integer division, which you'll notice, in order to divide two integers, you have to use two slashes. So float division uses one division slash. Integer division, when you're dividing two integer numbers, uses two. And when you divide integers, and they have to produce an integer result, essentially when you divide those integers, it's simply going to give you how many times in total 4 can go into 14 evenly. So if you look here, you'll notice, okay, 4 goes into 14 a total of 3 times because 4 times 3 equals 12. And so the result of your integer division will simply be 3. This can be really helpful if you don't really care about, the decimal component. You just want to know how many times a number can fully go into another one. So that's where this can be really helpful. So in integer division, 14//4, those are with integers. When you divide in that way, it gives you how many times in full 4 can go into 14. Now, what's also kind of cool about integers is that it gets paired with this function called the modulus. So this percent sign here is called the modulus, and essentially what this finds you is it finds you the remainder, or how many aren't counted, after integer division. So integer division and the modulus work together. And if you look here, you can see, well, 14, it can have 4 go into it a total of 3 times. But while it has 4 go into it a total of 3 times, that only gets you to 12. But you started with 14. And as a result, you have a remainder of 2. So if you use the modulus after this, it will tell you, okay, you have a remainder of 2 that are left over. So integer division and modulus work together. Integer division tells you how many times that number goes into the numerator. And modulus tells you after integer division how many you'll have left or what your remainder will be. So if you are someone that wants some formal notes here, this is where I jotted down what we talked about on the previous slide. This is only performed on integers. Integer division finds how many times the second number fits into the first number. And then the modulus finds the remainder after integer division has taken place. So I have 2 more examples here. 5 goes into 16 a total of 3 times, and the modulus shows you the remainder of 1. 12 goes into 20 a total of 1 time, and the modulus shows you the remainder of 8. So let's try an example of all of this together. So this first one here, I see 42 with integer division because of the 2 slashes divided by 8. So this one I need to figure out how many times 8 fully goes into 42. Well, 8 fully goes into 42 5 times. Then from here I can see the modulus. Remember, this is the remainder after integer division. Well, I know 8 goes into 42 5 times. That gets me to a total of 40. And because I need 2 more to get to 42, my remainder is 2, so my modulus produces 2. Then from here, see that we have our float or our double division. So notice this is different. We had integer at the top, and here with the single slash we have float. So this one's going to give us a decimal result. So if we take 42 divided by 8, we end up with a total of 5.25. So what I'd like you to do on this slide is I'd like you to pause the video and try these 10. I know they're numbered 1 through 5 twice, but try these 10 on your own. See if you can figure out what the result would be, because you'll need to be able to do this math on your own. Pay close attention to the operation that's in between them. Look out for the double division, what's going to happen when you divide, doubles or floats, those decimal numbers. Look at integer division and think about what's going to happen there. And then look at the modulus. So pause the video, take your time, and then when you're done with all 10, unpause the video and check your answers. So take a minute and check your answers here. I apologize for the weird formatting. It got a little weird as I turned it into a PDF. But take a minute, check your answers, see how you did. Were you able to distinguish between double/float division compared to integer division? And were you able to accurately use that modulus to find the remainder after integer division has occurred? So now that we've covered how the basic operations in math work in Python, let's look at the order of operations, because believe it or not, these order of operations that you learned back in your math classes do apply here. The order of operations matters. So on the screen I have the acronym PEMDAS, and I included the modulus operator in there. And I want to remind you how the order of operations works, because you do have to utilize the order of operations as you both solve for math in Python and as you create your own equations and put them into Python. So remember, the P means that you have your parentheses first, and this is anything that groups things together. So this can be roots, this can be powers, this can be brackets, whatever it might be. Anything that groups things together comes first. After that, we apply our exponents. Then once we've exhausted our exponents, we focus on these 3 operations. And the reason I put them on the same line is that because we do multiplication, that's the M, division, and the percent sign is the modulus. We do these from left to right. So essentially, once we've exhausted the parentheses and the exponents, we go from left to right, and we do every multiplication, division, or modulus in order. So if a division comes first, that happens first. If a modulus comes second, that happens second. Whatever it might be, we move from left to right. And once we've exhausted all of our multiplication and division, we then evaluate our addition and subtraction, and we again do those from left to right. So if a subtraction is first, it comes first. If an addition is first, that comes first. So when you're on these levels with multiples, you go left to right, and whichever of those operations you encounter first, that is what you complete first. So what I'd like you to do here is really take some time to pause the video and attempt these 5 math problems, because while they seem elementary and easy because you know your math, you really want to make sure you've got this down. So go through, go slow, apply your order of operations, and make sure you pay close attention to things like integer division versus that decimal division. Make sure you pay close attention to the modulus. Make sure you really think through your order of operations and how they apply. So pause the video, honestly attempt these, go slow, go one at a time, do one operation at a time, rewrite it on each line, show all of your work, and make sure you've really got this down, because this can get very tricky. So now that you've completed those 5 problems, take a minute, check your answers. If your answers do not match these, please seek help. Please make sure that you get some support so that I can clear up any questions that you might have, check over your order of operations, and give you some feedback. So if you did not get all 5 of these right and you could not show every step line by line slowly, make sure you seek some help on this topic before moving on.